Does this simple triangle remind you of anything? What if I flip it around? Still no? What if I fill in the color? Pink triangle. Stigma to strength. The Holocaust, also known as Shoah, was a deliberate genocide. It ended the lives of nearly 6 million European Jewish people. Jews weren't the only targets, however. The Nazis killed 250,000 Roma people, 3 million Soviet prisoners of war, 2 million Poles, 250,000 disabled people, 1,000 Jehovah's Witnesses, and hundreds of men accused of homosexuality. During the Holocaust, homosexual men had an entire special marking system to differentiate them from other prisoners. This even resulted in them being separated from other prisoners because homosexuality was seen as a disease. The Nazis revolutionized laws to target marginalized groups. Hitler and his followers passed legislation in waves to do so. From 1933 to 1934, the first law against Jews was passed. It excluded Jewish and politically unreliable civil workers from state services. Hitler limited what Jews could do in German public life. They even passed a law that excluded German Jews from Reich citizenship and prohibited romantic relationships with people of German or German-related blood. When these laws were first passed, the Jewish reaction was that of astonishment. Many people were in disbelief, while others just wanted to wait it out. Some believed that these laws would eventually pass when Hitler fell out of power. This could be the reason why he became so powerful. People believed he would eventually have to give up power, but he refused when the time came. The first statute used against homosexual men was known as Paragraph 175. It prevented a male who commits lewd and lascivious acts with another male or permits himself to be abused for such acts. The enforcement of Paragraph 175 was inconsistent before Hitler took office. After Hitler was in office, he revolutionized the use of this statute. Anyone found guilty of a homosexual act could be jailed for up to a decade. That is 10 years just for expressing your true feelings. Unfortunately, all this legislation led to what we know as the concentration camps. Almost every type of person the Nazis chose not to like was sent to a camp. The most known camp was Auschwitz. This camp was constructed in southern Poland. It was the largest concentration camp and it killed nearly 1.1 million people. Concentration camps were created as re-education centers so that Hitler could get more approval from the citizens of Germany. The citizens reacted this way because many had anti-Semitism hiding just below the surface that was allowed to be shown when Hitler openly expressed his plans. When Hitler took office, he banned all homosexual organizations. This brings us to the Institute of Sexual Sciences. This institute was founded by a homosexual and Jewish man named Dr. Magnus Hirschfeld. Students in Berlin began to protest the institution, and this ended with a violent rebellion. The building was ransacked, and most of its 12,000 documents and books were publicly burned. This very reaction of aggression started the true defamation of any sort of homosexuality in Germany. In October 1936, Heinrich Himmler, one of the main Nazi officers, created a Reich Central Office to combat homosexuality and abortions. This made it so police officers could jail homosexuals with no trial. During these times, it is estimated that around 90,000 men were arrested based on a homosexual act they committed. This number is a rough estimate because when the Nazis' horrific acts were finally discovered, they destroyed most of their original documentation. Of these 90,000, around 5,000 to 15,000 were thrown into concentration camps. Scholars today estimated that the death rate for homosexual men could have been as high as 60%. The death rate may have been this high because homosexual prisoners weren't just attacked by guards. They were also attacked by other prisoners. Hitler was very effective at making people believe homosexuality was a widespread disease that needed to be controlled, even psychologically manipulating his own prisoners. As unfortunate as it is, homosexual men didn't just face physical abuse. Many survivors can recall the sexual abuse they also faced. This abuse included the cruel act of castration. Castration was only one of the many torments used against gay men. Some people thought Hitler wouldn't go after those close to him, but this was directly disproven by the story of Ernst Röhm. Ernst Röhm was known as one of Hitler's best friends and greatest generals. Röhm was by Hitler's side through many of his disastrous feats. Röhm was put in charge of the Sturmabteilung, also known as the SA. However, even though he was in charge of so much in the Nazi Party, he was also a homosexual man. Hitler ignored this huge part of Röhm's identity until he had enough. One day, Hitler and a group of SS troops shook Röhm awake. They took Röhm to Stadthelm prison. Röhm refused to take his own life. Hitler then ordered his execution. After this, Röhm was rebranded into being a traitor and someone that can't be trusted. He was accused of hatching a nationwide plot to overthrow the government. This vile act was done by Hitler to set an example. He wanted everyone to know that he didn't care who you were. As long as you were a homosexual, you were a criminal. Eventually, Hitler's heinous war crimes were discovered and the concentration camps were liberated and almost everyone was freed. The prisoners were in a state of distress, most near death and very malnutritioned. Even though the Holocaust was finally over and the concentration camps were cleared, paragraph 175 was still in effect. It wasn't until about 1985 that the many homosexuals murdered by the Nazis were even acknowledged. There was no reform of paragraph 175 until 1969, 24 years after the Holocaust ended. In 1994, Germany officially decided to remove paragraph 175 from their laws. In 2002, Germany finally pardoned all of those convicted under this homophobic statute. Many homosexual prisoners didn't see reform even as the Nazi regime fell. One prisoner in particular was named Karl Gorath. After the concentration camps were liberated, Karl was freed. He eventually died in 2003 without receiving any reparations for the torment he went through. In modern times, there's a new reaction to the pink triangle. This reclamation started as early as the 1970s. The pink triangle started being reused to get gay people talking about AIDS and taking steps to prevent the spread and keep themselves protected. In 1995, a tradition was started in San Francisco by the Pink Triangle Foundation. Every year in June, they head to the Twin Peaks mountain and construct a huge pink triangle that even glows at night. It has been running since that June and is a huge part of San Francisco and their acceptance of LGBTQIA+ individuals. Although some are reclaiming and using the pink triangle as a symbol of hope and the ability to be outspoken about their true identities, not every group is. Some societies internationally still have negative reactions to homosexuality. Even though homosexuals don't face death, discrimination still lurks over them on a constant basis, just like it did in Nazi Germany.